Hello, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. Don't adjust your settings. This is how I sound. Puberty was 37 years ago, and I'm still waiting for my voice to change. I always hoped to grow up sounding like Barry White, but instead I came out more like Betty White. So I'm a little nervous. I haven't done stand up comedy for quite some time, and I'm not used to performing only for a camera. I expect there to be an audience. So let's make a deal. How about I'll pretend you're laughing and you pretend that I'm saying something funny? So, as I said, I used to do stand up comedy semi professionally. And I took that up because I think that in life you should occasionally do things that scare you. And at the time it was either comedy or voting Republican. I stand by my choice. So when I started out, I got myself a comedy coach because I am really direction oriented. Like walk, don't walk, pay at exit, get your mouth down farther, I can't feel that. It's how I roll. And the first thing that my coach taught me was the structure of a joke. A joke, he said, has two parts: setup, punchline. So, for example, if I were to say, Jeff Eulenberg is very old, that's not a joke. If I were to say, Jeff Eulenberg is so old, he does his stall count in Roman numerals, that's a joke. Another example, just to pull something out of the air, if I were to say that Gooch is lousy at sex, that's not a joke. That's just a well-known and documented fact. A joke would be, a blowjob from Gooch is like wearing pleated pants. It feels okay until you look down. Or if I were to say that Scott Compton is bad at Ultimate, that's not a joke. If I were to say that Scott Compton is so bad at Ultimate, the only trap he can run is his marriage, that's a joke. Something else I learned from my coach was how to handle hecklers. And let me say that back in the day, my worst fear was being heckled on stage. Well, that and being on a spring mix team with Dave Dillon. So my coach taught me that when you get heckled, don't lose it. Seek out something familiar in the situation. So I remember the first time I was ever on stage, a guy in the audience is giving me trouble. So I said, okay, I have to seek out the familiar. So I said, hello, sir, what's your name? And he says, suck my cock. And I felt right at home. Another thing that my coach encouraged me to do was to attend open mics. Now, if you've never been to an open mic, it's a night that a comedy club has once a week, once a month, where you can just show up, you sign up, you get in line to get on stage. Anyone can do it. And the open mics are kind of like gay bars. They're populated largely by men, most of whom will never know the touch of a woman. Unfortunately, they're home to a lot of bigotry. And at the time, I was the only gay comedian on the circuit, so it was scary. I remember a time at an open mic, a gentleman said to me, sir, your alternative sexuality threatens me. Except he didn't put it that way. He just said, faggot. So that was fun. Another time, I had barely gotten into my first joke when someone calls out, are you gay? And I mean, it wasn't like I was sucking cocks at that moment. And what's scary also is that occasionally a heckler will be funnier than you are. I remember a show that I was actually getting paid for, right? I was opening for a split headliner of two female comedians, right? So it was me and then these two women who would come on stage after me. So I think I'm being clever and I go out there and I'm like, hey everyone, it's always been my biggest hope to someday be the manliest comedian on the ticket. And someone from the audience calls out, keep hoping, buddy, keep hoping. So let me tell you my favorite heckler story. And because I don't do this professionally anymore, I can talk shit about other comedians. So I'm at a show, and the opener is a comedian who's obviously new at his craft. And he opens his set with, I hate women. And then he goes on to bitch about how he's not getting laid. And, I'm thinking maybe that's got something to do with your sales pitch. I hate women. And he really did hate women because he singles out this woman in the audience and he starts pelting her with questions. What color are your panties? When'd you last have your period? He's a dick. And she's not having fun. She's not playing along. She just wants this to be over, but he doesn't get it. So he asks her, I hate virgins. Do you know why I hate virgins? And without missing a beat, she cracks back, maybe because in 20 years, you'll still be one. I know, right? So the women in the audience, they are loving it. And they rally around and form the Yaya Sisterhood. And the men in the room, we know the time has come to shut our mouths and put our heads down. But the comedian's not getting this. And he's trying to shout them down, but there are 15 of them, and there's one of him, so he's losing. Finally, at the end of his rope, he says, for 2 cents, I'd give up all you women forever. If you've ever wondered how many thrown pennies it would take to knock someone unconscious, 38. So that's about all the time I have. So I'm going to sign off. And look, I know I've made fun of some people here, like Yule and Scott and Gooch. And like Yule, I think you're great, you know that. And Scott, I just love him to death. And Gooch, thanks for listening. So if you like what you've heard, my name is Neil McGarry. If you don't like what you've heard, my name is Kevin McCormick. Stay safe.